Good afternoon. We welcome you all to this webinar on GST compliance for companies under Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, organized by the Committee on Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code of ICAI. With us, we have today CA Abhishek Chopra ji and CA Mukesh Ladda ji, who is an insolvency professional too. In absentia, CA Sripriya Kumar ji. CA Abhishek Chopra ji is the speaker for today's session, whereas CA Mukesh Ladda will be moderating the today's session. Friends, we all know that the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code provides a low time for resolution and defines fixed time frame with the intention to strike the right balance of interest of all stakeholders and provide for maximization of the value of the stressed asset. Since the enactment of the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code 2016, or last 5 years, we all are aware how the code is evolving continuously and developments are taking place regularly for the effective implementation of the legislation. Insolvency resolution under IBC has GST complications too. GST compliances are important for companies under the code. The government has issued clarification with respect to the issues under GST law for companies under IBC. Also prescribing special procedures for corporate debtors who are undergoing CIRP under the provisions of IBC and the management of whose affairs are being undertaken by IRP or RP. Now I would like to talk something about the various initiatives taken by the committee on the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. In the last few months, we have seen that there are many papers have been published by the IBBI. Almost 10 papers were there, and for which we had the roundtable, we created the group, and we have submitted our suggestions on all the discussion paper which has been issued by the IBBI. So it is a regular event at the IBC that whenever any discussion paper comes, we suggest our views. We take the views from all the members who are the IPs and chartered accountants. We create the group and we take the details from them, and then we submit to the IBBI. We have also submitted suggestions to the Ministry of Corporate Affairs too when they came out with the papers. The committee has also conducted so far 4 batches of the certificate course on the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code 2016, in which the 3rd and 4th batch of the course was conducted in association with the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India. The 5th batch of certificate course is planned to start from 7th of October 2022. And friends, this will again be with the IBBI. The committee has also released 8 publications so far, which are easy to understand handbooks on important topics under the IBC, so that it facilitates the knowledge about a particular facet under the IBC, its provisions, its applicability, and practical implications. The committee has also brought out the frequently asked questions on the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code 2016, which is revised in January 2022, and this has been done in collaboration with the IBBI, and all the FAQs are supported by the case laws. The committee will be soon bringing out series 4 of the judicial pronouncement under IBC. So far, we have already released 3 series, but now the 4th series will also be there. The committee also brings out IBC case laws updates on regular basis, covering important case analysis based on the decision by the Supreme Court, High Court, NCLT, NCLAT on the issues under the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code of India. Besides organizing these kinds of webinars and VCM on important and emerging topics under IBC, the committee also organizes the VCMs on case studies of successful resolution under the IBC. I once again welcome you all, the members, for this important webinar today, where how the GST is to be dealt for the companies which are there in the CIRP. And the person who is going to take the subject today, who is going to address the subject today, is C.A. Abhishek Chopra. He's a fellow member of the ICAI and a qualified independent director also. He's a practicing chartered accountant, having more than 10 years of experience in the indirect tax. He has delivered lectures in various professional and trade associations. He was co-opted member of IDT committee of Ahmedabad, Ahmedabad branch of WRC. He is also a member of IDT committee of the Gujarat Chamber of Commerce. He regularly participates in debates on the news channel. He has contributed various articles and leading publications. This is the brief introduction of C. Abhishek Chopra. We do have with us Mukesh Ladda. He is a chartered accountant with 20 years experience in indirect taxation, litigation management, and system implementation. He is also a qualified insolvency professional, company secretary, and fraud examiner. He was the member of Confederation of Indian Industry, CII, and National Tax Committee 2018-19. He is a special invited to GST and Indirect Tax Committee of ICAI and member of IDT Committee of Ahmedabad branch of ICAI. As a faculty, imparting training to the central and state GST official on various technical matters. He worked at the leadership positions with the large corporate too. So with this, I present both coordinator, moderator, as well as the speaker of the day, Speaker Abhishek Chopra and moderator Mukesh Ladda, and wish you all a happy learning where you learn about the various intricacies with respect to the GST in case of the companies under the CIRP and how that care is to be taken by the interim resolution professional or resolution professionals. With this, thank you all, dear friends, for giving me a patient listening. Over to Rita.
Thank you so much, sir, for giving this opening remarks and setting the tone for the session today. Sir, with your permission, now I would request the speaker of the day, C.A. Abhishek Chopra ji, to please start with the session.
Thank you. Thank you. Very good afternoon to all the participants. Very good afternoon to CCM sir, Sri Durgesh ji Kabra sir, CA Sri Kumar ji, Sri Kumar, Vice President, and special thanks to the Committee on Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code for inviting me to deliberate on the GST compliance for the companies under IBC. So today we shall discuss with regard to the various compliances which as RP or CIRP has to perform during his tenure as RP, CIRP, and during the course of CIRP proceeding and then liquidation. So I am sharing my slide PPT and we are starting the session. Rita ma'am, shall I start?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Your screen is visible, sir. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you. First of all, I will just take you with the brief background because since IBC and GST both are new law, new legislation. So when new legislation comes, it comes with it brings up great reforms. So both the legislation are biggest reform of the century. It is almost 5 years. Both the reforms has been introduced. However, earlier we are facing the transitional issues. Right now, we are facing the evolving jurisprudence. It is already 4.5 years. The GST has been introduced almost 5 years, and the code has been introduced in late in 2016. So since it is both are new legislation, as a professional, we have a great professional opportunities. But these are technical laws. These are not general laws. So one need to know them technically, understand them technically, because one has to perform their duties and they should know their power and they perform their duties. So since these laws are new. There is no settled jurisprudence. Therefore, he has to follow the rules. He has to understand the issue. He has to bring the issue to the authorities. And this is the procedure how this jurisprudence works. In our today's agenda, we will keep ourselves strict to the compliance with regard to CIRP and liquidation era, period. So for that, we have bifurcated for discussion. We have bifurcated this discussion into three categories. One is pre-CIRP era period. Second is during CIRP, and third is liquidation. First, pre-CIRP era. What generally happens is before RP or IRP takes the charge of the companies, what is the situation of the company? We want to discuss that. So with GST perspective, generally, in that case, the company which is under CIRP, there is a possibility that there may be a pending litigation, which include demand notices, show cause notice, pending appeals, appeal is filed, hearing is pending, investigation going on, property may be attached, bank account may be freezed, ITC may be blocked. Along with that, the registration status of the company may be active or inactive. So this is the status where the RP get appointed on the first day. So out of that, he can face any of these, and we shall discuss each and every situation, how he has to handle all this situation during the course of CIRP. So with this, he has to start. Now a small walkthrough for the registration. Since under GST, all the compliance payment is done through registration. Therefore, registration is not just the document for disclosing the purchase and sale. It is in fact a document to discharge a liability. Unless central excise or service tax law, whereby we disclose the liability or disclose the statement of affairs of the company, and we pay tax by challan. Here under GST, the returns are the platform whereby we pay the tax also. Therefore, it becomes very crucial. So if we apply for registration under section 25, we will not go into the detail of who is required to take registration, when he has to take registration. That is not our agenda. So once he has taken that, pre-CIRP, the company is registered under GST, then either his registration, if cancelled, it is cancelled under 29. So pending cancellation, the registration is suspended. So the cancellation, if cancellation is done, then they have two remedy. The company has two remedy. One is revocation of cancellation. Second is appeal before authority, appellate authority. The cancellation revocation can be done within 30 days and additional 30 plus 30 days. However, the authority will change. And appeal can be done within 3 months. These are the procedure which a company can follow in case of cancellation of registration. As I said in our previous slide, the registration, we need to check whether the registration is active or inactive. If it is active, fine. But if it is inactive, this can be the possible reason. Next, now here we start with CIRP. As you can see on the screen, during CIRP, when new law comes now, there is a logic, there is a requirement, there is a need of R, and therefore legislator draft the law, pass the law, and implement the law. However, as a professional, we need to follow the law. So I came across lots of professionals during our discussion, during our deliberation, whenever the company is under CIRP. Many times they said, sir, this is the logic, this is how it should be. So here is the first opening. As a professional, we should follow the rules. We should not follow the logic, because you may be correct logically, but what is required is law. And no doubt law is made from the logics, but whatever something is lacking in the law, there is a lacking in the law, we should bring to the notice of the government or stakeholders, and accordingly they will bring the amendment from time to time. But as a professional, we should follow the rules, strictly to the rules. Now, during CIRP, the company is admitted under insolvency by the order of NCLT, that is adjudicating authority, and IRP is appointed. That is the day one. Based on announcement is made and publication is done on the website. Here you can see on the slide, I have mentioned a small pic whereby a person who is handicapped is taken care by a person. That person who is taking care is RP or IRP, and the person who is handicapped is a CD who is facing this insolvency. So it is his duty and it is the role he has to make that company good or revive again. That is the big challenge he has to perform apart from other compliance. Now, what he has to do on day one? Let's assume that the IRP or RP or IRP has been appointed, as the case may be, and on the day one, he has verifying the records of the company. The first thing he has to do with respect to GST is he has to check the status of corporate debtor registration, whether it is active or it is suspended or cancelled. He need to check the various balance lying in the electronic credit ledger, cash ledger, liability ledger. He has to intimate to the various stakeholders, including department, GST department, with respect to their tax dues, so that they can file their claim. Department can file their claim within 90 days of appointment. 90 days of appointment of RP or IRP, or any time before passing of resolution by the COC. This any time before passing of the resolution is based on various judicial pronouncement. Therefore, they can file, department can file the claim before passing of resolution plan. Apart from that, RP is responsible for compliance of requirement under various laws from time being in force. Here, this last point says that it is the duty of RP, it is the responsible of RP or IRP to compliance the various laws which is applicable to the said CD corporate debtors for a time being in force. That is during the period of CIRP. So for GST perspective, we are showing the illustrative list. What are the various compliance he has to perform? It includes, not limited to, we just know. If you see from the, generally it is the perception of the RPs that compliance under GST is filing the monthly returns, doing purchase, claiming the credit of purchase and filing the sales return and pay the tax on the sales. It is not limited to that. It is a detailed law. It is a monthly compliance and it requires a close supervision. So to attract your attention, what are the other crucial apart from filing the returns is to pay the applicable tax. Recently, we have seen that in July, the government has changed the rates of various products. Most of the products whose rates was 12 has been changed to 18. There are various industries which are outside the net of GST, was bring to the net of GST. Therefore, these all issues, he has to be vigilant, because if he don't keep eyes on that, then he will end up paying the less tax or non-payment of tax, which will ultimately invite the huge liability. Now, during CIRP, he has to reply to the various notices of the department which he receives for the period related to CIRP. For pre-CIRP, we will discuss in the next slide. He has to see, and one more important issue which I want to highlight here is, generally the RP is well versed in handling the affairs of the insolvency company or the company is under CIRP. He are regularly dealing with the banks, creditors, with the debtors, and he is taking stock of all the things which is to his knowledge. But apart from that, he has to take the complete knowledge of his business so as to understand the implication of GST on said business. For an example, if a company who is a pharmaceutical company is engaged in the manufacturing of drugs, and there is a product which is exempted and there is a product which is taxable, then he has to ensure that the due reversal of exempted supply, tax attributable to the exempted supply, is timely made in the respective returns. Apart from that, he has to see, he should not take the block credit. There are some credit which is blocked. There are special provisions for sale of fixed assets, including sale of second-hand vehicles. There is a compliance with regard to claiming of credit, which is introduced recently. If a supplier has filed a return and it is reflected in your 2A or 2B, then 2B, then only you can claim. All these issues, although it looks administrative or a compliance, but you will end up losing your money or you will end up landing into the litigation. Therefore, on the day one, RP should know what is the four wall of compliance under GST, which he has to monitor, and based on that, he can delegate. He should not feel like it is just a filing of return I have to take care, and rest is generally taking care. It is not the case. And as I said, during the period of CIRP, the whole responsibility is on RP. He should be personally responsible, and there is a specific circular of the board with regard to the personal liability of RP in case of non-compliance. Therefore, this is the again illustrative list. There are 174 sections in the CGST Act. all the section is duly applicable during the period of CIRP. Now, what challenges is generally faced by RP? We know what is the compliance, we know what is the to-do list on the day one, but what is the problem faced by RP? Generally, these are the problems we used to see when we discuss with the RPs that, sir, there is non-corporation by the existing promoter. We are not able to, we don't have access to our account, we don't have user ID password. We are not able to change the authorized person on the common portal. We cannot file the CIRP period return since we have not filed the earlier period return. And department is not granting new registration because we have not paid the earlier tax. And in the middle of this thing, the CIRP process is time bound. And this will lead to ultimately delay in the resolution of corporate debtor. Therefore, the ultimate object of resolution of corporate debtors is frustrated because of these challenges. Now, considering this, there is a challenges, there is a duty. Therefore, since he is not able to perform the duties, government has observed this and government has taken up these issues. And in the year 2020, the GST was introduced in 2017, July 2017, and the government, these problems, these implementation problems has been noticed by the department from various stakeholders. And to try to address this concern, government issued notifications and circular. This notification has been issued in the March 2020, and there is another notification 39 which is issued in May 2020. These notifications generally address the issue related to registration, claiming of credit for the intervening period, and filing of returns, and taking the credit along with the status of all litigations and claims which is before the company's corporate debtors. This circular address all these issues. Now, first we will take the registration. As I said, without registration, company cannot start any activity. Therefore, going by the circular has categorically and clearly cleared the issue of registration. So let's assume that there is a day one, there is a company A Limited, and as a IRP, he has to check whether the registration is active or cancelled, inactive. If it is active, it means the compliance under section 33 or 39. Further, he has to check whether compliance under 37 and 39. It means filing of GSTR1, that is monthly sales statement, and filing of GSTR3B, that is monthly 3B, payment of tax, is duly filed till the date of, prior to the date of CIRP, the date on which CIRP is introduced. If all this compliance is duly done by the company or firm, then the registration is active and corporate debtor can use that registration for his future compliance. Then if the registration is suspended or cancelled, it may be on account of non-filing of return or non-payment of tax or other liabilities, then it can be cancelled. So earlier in March 20, as I said, if you can see this notification 11, the government says that RP or IRP has to compulsorily take the new registration considering the CD as a distinct person for that new registration and apply new registration, take new registration, do the future compliance. However, by the notification number 39, there is a proviso which has been inserted, whereby it is permitted for those entities, those corporate debtors whose compliance are regularized are not required to, liable to take new registration. Therefore, there are two categories. One is if registration is active and compliance is done till date, till the date of appointment, then one can use the IRP can use the old registration. If it is cancelled or suspended, then it should not go on filing the returns because that was pre-CIRP period and not supposed to file. That is also clarified in the said circular. Therefore, he should apply for the new registration. He shall apply for the new registration and do the future compliance. That is for the registration. Now, 39, this is again what we have discussed in this period, and the period is by what time we should apply the registration. That is 30 days. The notification comes in May 2020 and it grants for the period till 30th June 2020 for all the registration, all the appointments of RP who has been done prior to the date of notification. So they can regularize their registration till 30th June 2020 and 2020 onwards after the date of notification. Within a 30 days, they have to take the registration, new registration, if the registration is cancelled or suspended. So here we have get the clarity on registration that which registration need to be taken, which registration not need to be taken or used, right? Now, suppose there are, as we discussed, there can be a two possible situation. One is using existing registration. If we use existing registration, what compliance you need to do is, you have to change the primary authorized signatory as IRP. There is a column called primary authorized signatory. So that will be changed from earlier director to the IRP's name. And if it is a new registration, then he has to apply for the same, and RP shall be appointed, and he will be named under the category of primary authorized signatory. Right? With this, under the GST registration, the name of the authorized person is changed to RP or IRP, as the case may be, whosoever registration use, whatsoever registration use. Moving forward, then let's assume the 1st January 2022 is the date when IRP has been appointed. And as soon as you know that the registration of the company is either suspended or is active, and let's assume it is suspended, then he applied for the new registration. And it takes 10-12 days to get the new registration. And by that time, 15th January came. Now, during this course, since the company is working, he has lots of purchase, he has lots of invoices, but that all invoices in the name of old companies, old GST number. Since supplier used to with the old number only, then the old number and new number is not received. Therefore, to address this issue, since under GST the credit is available when on the tax invoice the GST number of the recipient is mentioned along with his address and other credential. In this case, the GST number is under process. It is not received. However, company cannot stop his business. So he has to do the procurements, and procurement goes with credit. And this credit companies, there was a confusion during that period, and government has clarified by way of circular number 134. What government says that whatever tax is charged on the invoice for the period from the date of appointment till date of registration, on that invoice, if the registration is mentioned for the old GST or old corporate debtors or old number, then for all these invoices, the credit tax charge on that invoices, the ITC can be claimed in the first return. Now, here the first return have the importance. It is filed under section 40 of the GST. Since the name suggests it is first return, it is the first return which RERP or RP has to file. And one need to be very careful while filing this return, because it is one-time option to claim all the credit which is left out, which is having the, I will say here, the transitional period credit from the period from taking from the old management to the by the RPs, all those credit which is not which is on account of non-compliance of registration number is permitted to be taken. If any credit left in this return, then this will invite unwarranted litigation. You cannot take the excuses, I have taken the credit for rupees 10 lakhs in the first return, but I forget 5 lakh rupees of credit. Kindly allow me the subsequent return. They will not allow. Therefore, this is the first return. It is not required to be filed by the person who is using the existing registration. Since you are using the existing registration, then this situation will not arise. But if you are taking the new registration, then this situation will arise. And it is clearly mentioned in the circular that for the period pre-GST era, in our example, appointment date is 1st January 2022. So RP or IRP need not to file any return till 31st December 2021. It is the responsibility and liability of the old management, whosoever was there. He should not file those returns. It is clearly mentioned. He is not liable to file. Now, during that period also, there was one problem which was faced by the many professionals, that since the registration is not open, they have to do the compliance. So whatever tax liability comes, they used to deposit in the old register under cash ledger. Since they are not able to use it, they are not permitted to file the subsequent period return on account of non-filing of previous return. And there is no clarification by the government till date. I am talking about the period from 2017 to 2020 May. During that period, many persons, many RPs has deposited the tax liability in the cash ledger. This is also addressed since they have to apply the new registration because the old registration is not working. Then all the cash ledger balance sitting in the cash ledger is eligible for refund, even though you are not filed the return for the subsequent period. This is permitted, specifically permitted in that return. RP or IRP need to claim that refund and use that cash liability, that cash amount, while discharging the new liability in the new registration. Now, input tax credit. Registration is obtained, first return is filed, credit has to be claimed in first return. We have the compliance with respect to non-registration is already discussed. The wrong registration number is mentioned. There is one more liberty is given, that is in respect of section 16(4), which says the time limit for claiming the credit. It is the time limit for claiming any credit under GST is September, due date of filing of return of the subsequent year of the September. That is, for the year 17-18, the due date is October 20 ka return. September ka return, which is due to be filed on October 20. Therefore, since this notification is introduced in 2020, so government has relaxed that time limit also. If you have left out, then you are not hit by this section. Further, there is a requirement, one additional requirement is your supply, your inward supply should reflect in 2A. Since my registration number is not there, so my supplier must be filed the return under the old GST number. Therefore, it will not reflect in my new GST number. To that extent, in first return, government has relaxed that provision also. So one should not get confused himself that in my invoice there is a old GST number mentioned. It is not reflected in 2A. Department has issued the notice with regard to difference in 2A, 3B. There can be a possible observation of the department, but ultimately the law is clear and settled to that extent through the circular only. Therefore, he has to explain to the authorities that since although credit belongs to the CIRP period, but there is no violation since there is a relaxation. Now, the credit part is done. Now, going further, what other issues being faced by the RPs? Now, assume the situation that I have already taken the registration, I have active registration, I have taken the credit, I have filed the first return, I am filing the monthly return, I am doing the regular compliance. And I have set a system, I have resources, and I have delegated the resources that you have to do all the compliances based on the nature of the company. Now, many times it happens that department used to issue so-cause notice or initiate the coercive action on account of previous dues. Now, I have seen many professionals, many RPs who is replying to these departmental queries, try to address factually, sir, this is not the difference, this was the transaction, this was the liability we already discharged, we are in process. In my view, since the RP is not liable to do any kind of compliance with regard to previous period prior to CIRP, he has to just submit the circular along with notification, circular number 134, which clearly says that RP is not liable for any liability prior to the CIRP period. And further, with regard to coercive action, there is a clear-cut provision under circular 134 in a question answer format 1. The department cannot continue the old pending litigation and institute the new suits. It covers both the situation. If any investigation is going on, any so-cause is going on, any demand is going on, they cannot continue it and they cannot institute a fresh investigation for the prior period. On both the category, there is a clear direction in the circular. We have to write to the department, and I urge to always communicate with the department in writing. Don't go and meet in person. One more thing which I want to bring to your notice is, like most of the professionals are practicing in the participants are practicing in IB, so they know the applicable GST, which is applicable into their day-to-day practice. Somebody is practicing exclusive GST, they know what is the jurisprudence of GST. Now, what the problem of department officer is, they are day in, day out dealing in the GST matters. They are observing the GST circulars only. They are not through with the latest development in the other law, I will say interplay with IBC. Therefore, many times it happens, it is not the intentionally to do, it is lack of awareness. So once you bring to that notice or bring to their higher authority, notice of the higher authority, they will definitely take the cognizance of this. And for that, you need a written communication. Written communication will help you. At all department don't agree, then it will help you when you approach the high courts. It will show your efforts in a positive direction. Now, here, there are lots of issues which we are facing, which is still open. Although the registration part, old CIRP issues to an extent is addressed by the department through circular and notification. However, there are a lot of issues which are still open in my view, and to which we can answer. But as I said, something which is not written, we don't apply the logic. So what can be the possible issues which can come, and government may issue the clarification? The first issue is, let's assume there is a demand of 10 crores pertaining to GST. GST has filed the claim before the RP. The resolution clause is passed, and in that the department got the haircut of 10 lakh rupees against 10 crores claims. Now the payment is made to the department 10 crores. Now department says there is outstanding liability of 9.9 crores, which is yet to be paid. So the question is, can department come again and agitate that you have paid 10 lakhs, it is fine, but 9.9 is still pending and I can take the coercive action? The answer to this question is big no. It is very well clarified by the circular. And in the famous case of Ghanshyam Mishra, the Honorable Supreme Court says, once you have filed the claim and resolution clause is passed and it is considered in that plan, and you have whatever you get, it can be haircut or a substantial amount, whatever you get, it should be considered as final, and no fresh claim can be filed for the said claim which is already filed. Therefore, the answer to this question is, whatever department gets, there is nothing pending, it is full and final closed. It will be treated as operational creditors. Whatever they get under the waterfall mechanism, it will be treated as payment of all the liabilities, irrespective of actual claim filed. Issue number two, is the corporate debtor required to file the final return as on date of the CIRP commencement for the period pre-CIRP? Now, what issue we generally face, there is a concept of filing final return. We discussed first return, that is filed at the time of birth of registration, that is first return. There is a last return, we call it final return. When it is to be filed, it is filed in terms of 60, section 40. It is filed when registration of the company is cancelled. Now, in our example, the IRP is appointed on the 1st January and registration was cancelled on that date. Now, the final return need to be filed in a time-bound manner, and delay in filing will attract late fees. The question comes whether the RP is required to file that return, IRP is required to file that since it is falling due under his tenure. In my view, it has to be filed by the promoter and directors or authorized person of the previous registration who is mentioned, because with the introduction of CIRP under section 17, the powers of the director is suspended. However, duties and liabilities still remains, and it is the duties of the old management to file this registration. And further, this compliance related to the period, although the compliance filing due under this period, however, this is related to the period prior to the CIRP. Therefore, the IRP is not liable to file final return for the period pre-CIRP, and there is an exclusive duty of the old management. Further, in case of non-corporation by the old management, the RPs can very well invoke the regulation 19 subclause 2, in which those who are not following cooperating during the compliance of this CIRP process, he can seek the direction from the honorable courts. Therefore, the answer to this question is whether he is required to file the final return. The answer is no. Now there is a big question. This is the query to the most of the RPs, and this is the big challenge because it goes with the huge amount. Let's assume there is a company whose registration is cancelled, and there is a credit balance. Registration was cancelled in April 2021, and the date of appointment of IRP is January 2022. Now, as on date of cancellation, the credit balance lying in his credit ledger is 20 crores. Now it's a big amount. Now going by the registration circular and notification, RP has to apply new registration because old is cancelled, and he has applied. But during the course of verification and routine compliance, he came to know that, and while drafting the resolution plan, while evaluating the resolution plan, he came to know that there is a credit balance worth of rupees of 20 crores sitting in my credit ledger. Now the question comes whether the RP can use that old balance, which is lying in the old registration credit balance worth rupees 20 crores, while doing the compliance with the new registration. He has already obtained the new registration. He is doing this compliance regularly. Now the credit is lying in the old balance. Can he use? Now here I said don't apply logic. The first thing is don't apply logic. Here the law, there is no mechanism to transfer the credit. The only mechanism, there was a form-based transfer system in the GST. Like we all know, in case of Tran 1 credit, there was a form with which we can transfer the credit from old regime to new regime. Like to that, there is no form prescribed for this particular credit. So credit which is sitting in the old registration is not permitted to be used as of now. And there is no mechanism. If at all you use, it will invite unnecessary litigation. However, in my view, since department is permitting the two means of registration, one is you can continue the old registration if compliance is regular. And in that, if there is a balance, definitely you will use it. You cannot, there is no restriction as such for not using that opening balance, which is there. And simply, since I have taken the new registration, that too on account of non-compliance by the old person, and I am just using the credit, I am not taking the credit. It will be the case of taking the credit, then there can be issue. It is the credit already taken by the previous registration. There is no questions of disputed credits. The credit is already sitting in the ledger. It is just about the use of credit. Therefore, once credit is accrued, it is sitting in the credit ledger. It becomes a vested right. Therefore, mere non-compliance or differential treatment in the compliance should not deviate us or deprive us from the substantial right, that is a vested right which is already accrued. Therefore, in my view, we are expecting a clarification in this regard by the department. Department may take cognizance and one should represent before the department in this case. This is the big issue which we are facing right now. Next one is RP are required to surrender. Is RP is required to surrender and file the final return for the GST registration after the end of CIRP? If CD is revived and handed over. So the question comes during CIRP. CIRP process is going on. CIRP process is going on. The resolution plan is approved. And let's assume company is revived. Then company will be handed over to a new board of director or partners. In that case, as I said, the surrender, the final return is liable to be filed when there is a cancellation of registration. In this case, there is a possibility that new management will continue their registration. If new management don't continue the registration, then there is a possibility that this final return has to be filed by the RP. However, in case of continuing registration, the RP can take an undertaking from the new management that they will continue with the same registration. Therefore, RP or IRP is not liable to file the final return. Again, it is advised to take in writing because once he leave, he went into the new assignments and he don't know what has happened to the earlier company, and it is possible that company may file the new registration, file application for new registration and take new registration and surrender old registration. In that case, the liability can be there. Now, if CD is using old registration, now here one more legal question crop up. Let's assume the department has filed the claim before the authority, before the RP, worth rupees 10 crores. That relates to ineligible credit or non-payment of tax. They have submitted the claim. As on 30th of January, the RPs have evaluated the claim and admitted the claim. That claim is clubbed with the operational credit, other operational creditors. Now, department got the details of resolution plan, whereby he knows that there is a total creditors worth rupees 100 crores to whom the company is not paying the consideration or amount on account of resolution plan, and that is confirmed by the COC and further approved by the NCLT. Now, department says at the time when I filed the claim, this fact is not known to me. It is the subsequent event whereby you have not paid to your creditors, and under section 16, you are supposed to make payment to your supplier within 180 days. Therefore, since this event triggered during CIRP, you have to pay, you have to reverse the credit pro rata to a non-payment of to the supplier. In our case, it is 100 crores. So if we take a general rate of 18%, the reversal can be of 18 crores. The question comes here is, can department submit this kind of claim in the disguise of saving, since it is falling under during CIRP, and the event triggered during CIRP during the course of resolution plan. Therefore, this is a new liability and it should be considered. Whatever I have felt, this is different, and this liability is altogether different. Here, in my view, there is no circular and this notification in this regard. But based on circular and intent of the government, we can say that the intention is government to take away all the previous liabilities during the CRP, and this payment to supplier is also with regard to the supply received in the previous regime prior to CIRP. Therefore, the payment to them is equated with the payment to the government, and since the payment is not made on the same footing, we have not made payment to the creditors. Therefore, the allegation of department is not sustainable and reversal is not required to be done. Here, this is the CIRP phase. This is the phase where RP try to revive the company, resolve the issues, do the regular compliance of the company. For that, he need registration, he need returns, he need a clear understanding of how to take credit, when to take credit, how to file the returns, what reversal we have to do, and what other compliance I have to do. Special checks needs to be there for e-way bill provision, invoicing provision, and special attention need to be given for all the notices which is being received by the department for the non-compliance done during CIRP period. With this, if we develop this system, he can do the systematic compliance of CIRP period. Let's assume the situation that resolution plan is not work out and company has to enter into the liquidation era. Then we will enter into the liquidation era. Liquidation can be by way of order of court, by voluntary liquidation. If liquidation is initiated, the resolution professional become liquidator and his name is changed from resolution professional to liquidator. Now, here comes the approach of liquidator. I have met many RPs during the course of my practice and advisory services. They are very much clear, they are very much enthused, they are very much dynamic in their approach. The ultimate aim of the RPs or IRPs or liquidator is to get maximum revenue from the available asset and to pay maximum to their stakeholders, including operational creditors. So they do n number of permutation combination to get maximum wealth, maximum auctions amount, so that they can pay the maximum amount and they can revive the company. If not revive, then they can pay maximum amount to the financial creditor and operational creditor. That is fine. That is the object of the code. But while doing so, one need to keep the GST, because this is the era where the whole object of the RPs is to liquidator is to get maximum revenue. So parallelly, we have to keep the GST doesn't stop here. The company, the CD is still going concern. The compliance is still there. It is not that the phase is changed from CIRP to liquidation, the compliance will stop. No, it is still a regular company, it's still going concern. The registration will continue. All the compliance will be continued. Therefore, further, I have seen many companies which was a kind of sick company or closed companies, and who ultimately voluntarily travel to the voluntary liquidations. And there I met many RP, and they says we are not liable to take registration under GST because there is no taxable supply. They have an idea that under GST there is a threshold of 20 lakhs or 40 lakhs. Since we are not crossing this limit, we are not liable to take registration. Therefore, no compliance is required. We just have land and building and small debtors and creditors. Therefore, it is not required. Then I will say, apart from threshold section, there is one more section under GST, that is section 24, which mandates the CIRP, which mandates the liquidator to take the registration by the company, and it is a compulsory registration. And one of the service which it came across is the services of advocate. Generally, all the companies under liquidation or CIRP avail the services of advocate for appearances or otherwise. Therefore, advocate service received by a business entity is under compulsory reverse charge. The recipient has to pay GST under reverse charge. The GST rate is 18%, And generally, this is the cost which is incurred by almost all the companies. Therefore, one should not feel that since my output liability is not there, I'm not liable to registration. Reason being, at all, if you close the, if after the process of liquidation, the department get to know that this company has not taken the registration and they are liable to registration, then respective provision of non-registration along with non-payment of tax shall be imposed, and this will be the personal liability of RPs since he was responsible for the compliance during that period. Therefore, registration is compulsory under GST. He need to cross-check whether he has availed the services or not. If he is not availed, then it is fine. But generally, he avails the services. Therefore, registration is required. Now, what compliance is required under companies under liquidation? In continuation with the CIRP, there will be a change of authorized person. He has to file the monthly return, ensure GST collected and timely paid to the government. There should not be delay. Delay goes with interest. And if department find out the delay, then it goes with penalty also. Ensure all the ITC, because there is a time limit for ITC, is correctly and duly claimed. Here now comes the role of liquidator. Under section 89 of CGST Act, the liquidator within 30 days has, from the date of appointment, has to inform the commissioner, jurisdictional commissioner, regarding his appointment. Now, then commissioner may call for the various information as he deems fit within 3 months to calculate the GST tax, interest and penalty which is likely to be payable on account of or on the event of liquidation. Now, what is the intention of this schema is the liquidator is appointed. Now, company is going to close. During CRP, it is a going concern. So there is a regular compliance going on. But since there is a closure of company after liquidation or dissolution of company, therefore there is a special check at the end of this phase. The department takes all the documents, seeks all the documents to derive how much liability may arise on account of liquidations. When you sell the assets, you will sell land and building, plant and machinery, along with other assets, and company business will be closed. Therefore, this section becomes crucial. It is advisable to intimate to the GST department. We came across that most of the RPs don't intimate to the GST department. They generally take the plea that since it is a public notice, it is known to everyone, therefore no requirement. I have seen few cases whereby there was no financial creditor and there was a huge tax demand and there was a small creditors, operational creditors of goods and services. In that case, there can be a situation on account of huge claim of department. They can come to the COC on account of huge claim because their percentage is more than 10% of the total claim. Therefore, since they are the big stakeholder and as a matter of healthy practice, we should inform them with regard to the procedure. As a matter of procedure, it is a specific procedure mentioned in the GST. Therefore, he should intimate a department with regard to his appointment, and whatever the information department demands, he should supply so that department calculate the tax payable, interest payable, and penalty payable on their own. Now, why there is a special checks and balances at this junction? There has to be, if RP is already appointed, why government is very much crucial at this stage? Now, for this, we need to have a small understanding on taxable event under GST. Under GST, the taxable event is supply, which is mentioned in section 7. Almost all form of supply, you call it sale, transfer, barter, exchange, license, lease, rental, everything is covered. What is not covered is Schedule 3. And more specifically under Schedule 3, there is an entry of sale of land and sale of building. Sale of land and sale of building is out of GST. It is neither a supply of goods nor a supply of buildings. So those generally, in the case of liquidation, the company is left out with only these fixed assets, generally land, building, small furniture, fixtures, and plant and machinery. Therefore, it is undisputed that land and building are out of GST. Now, there is another concept of composite supply and mixed supply. What is the significance of this concept? We will discuss in next slide, but first understand this concept. So, composite supply and mixed supply. Composite supply means a supply where there is a principal supply and along with that there is an ancillary supply. For an example, there is a mobile, along with that there is a charger. So nobody is going to take charger without mobile. It goes hand to hand with the mobile. So for sale of mobile, there is a charger is compulsory or a cover is compulsory. So that is an ancillary supply. Another example we can take is for supplying an AC air conditioner, the installation services are ancillary services. So the principal supply is a supply of air conditioner. So under GST we call it naturally bundled. So something which is naturally bundled, it means the ancillary supply you will not take unless you will not take the principal supply. However, in case of mixed supply, there are two different set of supply which are combined together and the single price is charged for it. Now, how it create a difference under GST? In case of composite supply, in case of supply of AC along with services, the rate of AC will prevail. However, in case of mixed supply, when more than one supply is there, the highest rate will prevail. Therefore, this become a serious and important section. Now, why it is relevant, I will explain the next slide. Now, there is only one exemption which is given under GST, which may be applicable during the course of liquidation. That is notification 12, 2017, whereby the government exempts the transfer of services by way of transfer of a going concern as a whole or as an independent part of there. Means if you do a transfer of a business as a whole, that transfer of business as a whole is not subject to GST. And if you transfer a company as a whole, then also it is not subject to GST. That is the one exemption, and it is a general exemption. It is not specific exemption for IBC companies. It is general exemption applicable to demerger also, merger also, or all the other transaction whereby the company transfer as going concern. Here it is important to note that they have not used the word slump sale. They have just mentioned the word going concern, right? Now here comes Regulation 32. What all permutation combination is possible whereby the liquidators sell the companies and what is the implication of GST on that transactions. Now the first transaction is an asset sold on a standalone basis. If a liquidator sell any assets, he will identify the assets, he will value the assets, he will invite the auction bids, there will be a successful bidder, and he will collect the applicable GST on that assets and he will supply that assets. Now, when there is a individual sale of standalone assets, generally there is no confusion. We have to see if it is a plant and machinery under which HSN code is false, what is the rate of tax, charge that rate of tax and pay that tax to the credit of government. If any credit is available, use that credit and pay the balance in cash. Now, the asset in a slump sale. Now, this is a unique concept under IBC. There is no concept under GST or income tax. There is a concept of slump sale. But the asset in a slump sale, generally the slump sale goes with assets and liability both. But here there is a unique concept, whereas exemption is for GST in going concern. So if you say the asset is sold in slump sale, first of all, slump sale goes with liability only, liability also. However, at all, let's assume that is permitted under IBC. Then under GST, if you see whether that supply is taxable or not, then we need to further check whether the slump sale is done by way of going concern or not. If it is not in the nature of going concern, litigation can be arise. Now comes set of assets collectively. GST is applicable. Now mixed supply. Set of assets collectively. If you sell assets collectively, the GST is applicable on that set of assets. Now, what is the set of assets? It can be air conditioner, computer, chair, tables, furniture, fixtures, etc. Whatever miscellaneous assets companies have, they set them in a collective basis and they put the auction in that way only and they pay the tax accordingly. But here you have to see a class of assets which you are clubbing together. If there is a different rates of allocated to each class, then mixed supply may be invited. We will understand mixed supply with an example in our next slide. But here we need to understand that set of assets collectively will need a special check. Now assets in parcel, again GST is applicable. The CD corporate debtor is going concern. As I say, specific exemption is available. Going concern, there is no issue. You can do company as a whole or business as a whole. So both the situation is covered, provided it should be going concern. If it is a going concern, then exemption is available. Now, what are the possible litigations during the course of liquidation supply? As we discussed that company can do varieties of sales. Let's take few examples under companies under liquidation, which we generally came across. First is, what company do is, company generally do sale of land along with building, along with furniture, which is separately classified in capitalized in the books of accounts. What happens generally is, there is a land there is a building constructed on land. There is a building constructed of that land, and there can be a furniture which is added to that building or which is capitalized in the books of accounts. Now, generally what happens when we capitalize building, after that whatever furniture is made, it is capitalized separately, and there is a separate rate of depreciation under income tax also. So the furniture is separately capitalized. Now, when the auction is invited, it is invited for land and building attached thereto. Now, when the furniture which is already there in the building is also sold along with this auction, now here comes a check. There is no GST on land and building. As I said, Schedule 3 clearly exclude that. However, there is a GST on supply of furniture, and the company is charging. It is not a mixed supply, because for mixed supply there has to be a 2 or more taxable supply. Here the land and building is not a supply at all. It is a non-GST supply, but along with non-GST supply, there is a taxable supply, and consideration is not known since single price is asked. Therefore, whenever such auction is invited, it is advisable to write in the auction document separately the value of furniture, allocate the value of furniture, and pay the appropriate tax on the value of furniture. Otherwise, department, since it is the public domain, the document is in the public domain, department can anytime take the document, auction documents. They will get to that company has supplied the furniture and they have not paid tax on the furniture value. Now, department will derive their value based on their valuation, and that may invite a huge tax liability along with interest and penalty. So it is the common practice. I have seen many auction documents which is there on the public domain, and generally they say the land, building along with furniture and fixtures affixed thereto, it is available for sale, and so rate, so reserve price, and so earnest money is required. So this may invite GST litigation. Now, second is sale of CD/business as slum sale as going concern. Now, question is, under slum sale, the requirement is assets and liabilities are combinedly transferred to the buyer and single price is charged. So in our case, the creditors of CD has already submitted the claim. There is no creditor as such for the CD. The only asset is going to auction. But while auctioning the assets, the method is generally followed is slum sale as going concern. Now the question is whether slum sale is possible without underlying creditors. Question number 1. Whether an asset which is being sold to the recipient, how RP, a liquidator, will ensure that it is sold as going concern. I have seen that they have taken the order, they get the order that company is sold under going concern. But in substance, we have to see whether in actual the company is sold as going concern. I have came across few transactions whereby the company has sold the land, building, plant and machinery to an entity A, and on the very same day, the entity has started demolishing the building and plant and machinery. Now, the going concern goes with continuing the business. Here on the day 1, he is not using any plant and machinery and land and building for the very purpose of continuing the business. Therefore, why we are concerned, because the RP, the liquidator is claiming the exemption. It is not the recipient who is claiming the exemption. It is the liquidator who is claiming the exemption. So he need to test whether this exemption is otherwise available or not. Whether the going concern condition is satisfied. We are not concerned with the slum sale because that word is not written in the exemption notification. The only word written is going concern. So he has to ensure going concern. If it is satisfied, the documentation need to be taken care. There has to be a confirmation from the successful bidder with regard to going concern. The undertaking need to be taken so that at all litigation comes, there is a defense available to the liquidator. Now, this is the last point which I have discussed in the previous slide, that mixed supply. Now, this is the live example which I came across. There is a one bid which I have seen. Sale of various items for a single price. As I said, miscellaneous items are clubbed together and they are kept on the auction on the website that this is priced at 50 lakh rupees and these all items are available. Now, they write the description: sale of DG set, AC, scraps, drums, plant and machinery, etc. Single price 50 lakhs. And they write GST is applicable and generally they charge 18%. Now here mixed supply may be invoked and GST shall be payable at the highest rate. Now what is highest rate? Which we will understood by the next slide. Now this slide is just to understand the mixed supply. On the left side, I have mentioned that as on today, these are the few assets, 3 assets which are rated at 28%. And I have mentioned the HSN code also. And the description is air conditioner machines, electrical ignitions or generators, monitors and projectors. And on the right side, I have pasted the extract of one auction documents whereby they have mentioned that generator is there for sale, tractor is there for sale, LCD monitor is there for sale, and the single price is 50 lakhs, 20 lakhs, 70 lakhs, as the case may be. Price may vary from company to company based on the value of goods. But here the concern is the generator is rated at 28%. AC is rated at 28%. LCD is rated at 28%. Now you are clubbing all the assets and you are charging single price. Department will undoubtedly invoke the mixed supply, and they will compel to pay, the liquidator shall compel to pay additional 10%, assuming that company liquidator shall pay 18%, which is the general rate, but department then demand the 10% additional over and above the 18% along with interest penalty. Now, this needs a special care. What he can do is, he can club the cluster of all the assets who are GST rates rather than merging all the assets together of different rates. This will optimize the tax also. There may be possible that few assets are rated at 5%, few are rated at 12%, few are rated at 18%, but he may be paying at higher rate, but he should classify the assets and accordingly draft the auction documents. Further, as I said in the previous slide, the liability of director. Now, many times it comes that previous director not cooperating. Previous directors claim that, sir, our powers is suspended, board is suspended. Now we are not board, you are responsible. And we are not supposed to do any compliance, even though it is related to pre-GST era, pre-CIRP era. Here it is important to note that during the period of CIRP or liquidation, the power of board of directors is suspended in terms of section 17. However, duties, liabilities still exist. There is a responsibility still exist. So under GST, there is a section 89, which clearly says for any private company which even wound up all the directors who was director at that point of time during pre-CIRP shall be held responsible personally for tax, interest and penalty unless he prove the satisfaction of commissioner with regard to gross negligence and breach of duty. So here, if you do the proper communication with the old director and you have evidence that old director has not done his job, he has not extended his cooperation, you can very well submit to the GST authorities a letter which you have sent them showing that there is a non-cooperation, and accordingly department will summons to the respective director under section 89. It is clear-cut liability. So therefore, there should not be a misconception with regard to suspension of powers vis-a-vis duties. Duty is still there. Now, what are the penal provision? Many times it happens that RP is under impression that, sir, we will do CIP process, then liquidation, then company will be dissolved, and then the company names will be strike off, and there is no person as such exist. Then whom department will inform or notice, or to whom they will raise the department? First of all, let me clarify one thing, that you might have handled many assignments till date. It is already 5 years. You have handled lots of assignments. And it may be possible that you have not received a single notices from the GST department. The reason which I can perceive is the department as of now is busy in filing claims. There is a separate dedicated cell who is engaged in filing claims. However, for issuing the notice, the time limit is extended. There are 2 time limits prescribed under GST. One is when you are bona fide and one is when you are mala fide. The section is 73 and 74 respectively. The time limit of 73, that is 3 years, is yet to pass, and 5 years is long way to go. Therefore, the time limit is still open. One can receive the notices, and I hope, I am not sure whether department knows this fact or not, but generally, when the time approaches, departments become active and they issue the bulk notices, like they have done in service tax also. They might do in GST. At that point of time, we will know that no, there is a liability. And now question, under which section is governing the offenses, and which section penalize the concerned person. So let's have a look on section 137 of CGST Act, which says where an offence is committed by a person under this act, every person, the word uses every person, at the time the offence was committed was in charge. Here during the period of CIRP and liquidation, the person is IRP, RP or liquidator. He was the in charge, therefore he is the responsible for the compliance and liabilities. Further, 132 is the penal provisions. There are list of offences listed in that section from A to I. There are various categories of offences which is listed in that. We have not mentioned here, but that is the section which lists out the offences, and it also invoke the criminal proceeding against the concerned person, and it may extend from 6 months to 5 years. And you can see across you, and you might be reading in the newspaper that GST is arresting the culprits. GST is invoking the sections of 132, arresting the person who is defaulting the case, who is doing the default, who is doing the non-compliance, who is not paying the tax. Therefore, again, it becomes serious. As a RP, as I said, you have to follow the rules. Don't apply the logic. Don't evade any tax. Don't give any excuses with regard to non-awareness of the law. So what you have to do, you have to collect the tax, you have to pay the tax, you have to keep in mind the respective provision of the GST. You can very well appoint the GST consultant. You have power under section 20. You can appoint the GST consultant, independent consultant, GST and another consultant to take the help of that person. As a RP, you should be vigilant what all checks and balance need to be made. You can delegate accordingly, and the person who is in charging, who is heading this, need to take. There is a possibility that company is having the pan India operation. There can be possible that company may have in 10-20 registration. It become a huge task to handle all these registration. The different authorities have different mindset. They may issue the letter, demand coercive action from time to time. So you need to be vigilant. You have to clearly mark, you have to clearly segregate the boundaries that, look sir, pre-CIRP era, I am not liable. These are the circular, these are the notification. My liability start during CIRP. If you have anything to say during CIRP, I am answerable. You write me, I will reply it. And for that, you have to strengthen your internal control, your compliance. During liquidation, you have to know what kind of structuring you are doing, in what fashion you are selling the assets, and make sure that the applicable GST is paid, because the value of assets is generally used as compared to the normal purchase and sale transactions. Since the value is used, it may be possible that the tax amount may be above 5 crores. If it is not understood in a proper manner, then department can invoke section 132. Then the RP or liquidator will land in trouble, and he has to prove otherwise that he was bona fide, he was not guilty offense, and it is a long process. Therefore, we are a professional person to handle, to revive the company in a professional manner. Parallelly, it is equally important to understand our role, our responsibility, our duty, and what all checks is there, what all updates comes, and accordingly implement that in the system. Don't take unwarranted benefits which is otherwise restricted. At all you want to take, follow the legal process, legal courts, approach the courts, and then only take the benefits. Because when demand comes, solely RP shall be responsible. As you read from the departmental circular dated 3rd January, insolvency professional will be responsible for the non-compliance of the provision of the applicable law if it is on account of his conduct. Now, if it is on account of his conduct, he has to prove otherwise that it is not on my conduct. And believe me, it will take time. Therefore, I say, do the regular correspondence with the department. Don't do verbal communication, because this will help you to prove yourself that it is not on account of your conduct. It is either the mistake of director, it is either the mistake of old promoters, it is the mistake of departments whatsoever, or supplier. You have always documented your actions, your deeds in the best way you can. That will help you when you defend yourself before the authorities. Now, what all liabilities which is there in the GST apart from criminal liabilities is, if you do delay in filing the returns, it may invite 10,000 each return. Interest is payable at the rate of 18% if on the cash portion which is liable to pay under GST. Earlier, there was a liability on the gross output tax. Then government has amended twice, and finally it is retrospectively amended. Right now, the RP or liquidator has to pay the tax for delay in payment of output tax, which is paid in cash only. Interest shall be payable at the rate of 18-20% for wrong or ineligible creditor. one should not claim ineligible credit or wrongful credit, which is block credit or which is ineligible otherwise. One should not claim. Otherwise, interest is payable at the rate of 28%, 24%, or 18% as the case may be. There is a general penalty clause for non-following of various provisions under law, which may extend up to 25,000. And if the company is engaged in filing the refunds claim, one should not claim erroneous refund or refund which is not eligible. Special care need to be taken for inverted duty, where the refund of input services and capital goods is not eligible. And in case of LT, refund of capital goods is not eligible. At all it is claimed, it goes with 100% penalty and along with interest thereon. Therefore, read the law carefully, understand carefully, and then implement it fully, so that there should not be any problem which will come. Now, concluding this session, so that we can move towards our question answer. We will have a question answer session also.
Abhishek, we are having the questions, so we will
No,
take
sir,
it.
I want to just conclude 5 more minutes, then we will take the questions, sir.
We have enough time, please.
Okay,
Please continue.
Now here, what special, just a minute, huh? Sorry for the inconvenience. What I want to say is, we have understood the procedure wise what all compliance is required under GST for the company under IBC or CIRP, right? So for the period pre-CIRP, there is a clear-cut demarcation that nothing is payable, nothing is liable by the company. That is under required to be done by the RP or CIRP, RP or IRP. It includes investigation, it includes demands, it includes any pending litigations. For the period during CIRP, everything is applicable. May it be investigation, may it be demands, may it be compliance issue, everything is the baby of RP or IRP. So for that, there has to be a strengthened system. For if IRP is appointed and within a period after 30 days, let's assume that IRP is replaced by the RP, then new registration is not required. The old registration will continue, and in that, under authorized person, the name of RP will be there. So new registration is not required for that very purpose. Further, if the company is having the registration pan India pre-GST and the registration is not active or suspended, then he has to take the new registration considering that registration, that CD has a distinct person in all the states where they are registered, earlier registered, and do the regular compliances of all the tax period during which the company is active during CIRP. Now, liquidation, before liquidation, if company is revived, then regular compliance will be handed over to the new person. And if company is entered to liquidation, then during liquidation, there is no, the regular compliance will go on. But after liquidation, after filing of dissolution, the RP need to cancel the registration after discharging on the liabilities, need to file the final return for that period and inform the authorities with regard to the final closure of the registration, so that he can ensure that he has filed the first return, he has filed the final return, and in between he has done all the compliances, so that there is no non-compliance on the part of IB liquidator, to avoid any future miscommunication or conception. What I have seen is many liquidators, after closure of liquidation, don't file final return, don't inform the authorities, and final return goes with late fees, and it is time-bound return. Further, the department is open to issue the notices for that period. Therefore, the complaint should be done end to end, and where it ends with final return. It doesn't end with the monthly return. And before filing the returns, one should do the walkthrough for all the intervening period, that is there any tax which is unpaid? Is there any liability which is unpaid? Is there anything which is required to be done, including issuing of invoice, paying the tax under reverse charge? Is something left? Do the proper compliance of that, and then file the final return. At all, if it comes related to that period, it will come to the liquidator. Therefore, it is advisable to have a cross check before final returns. Thank you.
It's a very wonderful session, Abhishek, and I'm audible now.
Yes, sir, you're audible. Yeah.
Okay. A wonderful, crispy. It's able to give a token pulse from C and super analysis from the GST provision which is applicable during the CIRP process and the company which are into liquidation. So we have received some questions and we'll try to take one by one, and we'll try to answer also what are the best capability we have. The question number first is, on the insolvency commencement date, there ought to be some liability of GST and the last month's return would be required to be filed. Other data up to that how to get accepted or obtained from the suspended board and comply with the task with the as per GST law. Please give practical solution for filing the GST return payment of GST tax due, since all IP will get only the new registration after taking over management after insolvency commencement. I think during discussion this was answered that the old details are not required to file, but still please recheck your opinions and views on this question, please. You are mute, Abhishek.
Hello.
Yeah.
So there is some issue in sharing the screen, but can you repeat the question, sir?
No, I'm not sharing my screen. I'm just.
No, there is issue at my end. I am not able to, change the screen to the video mode. Therefore, I will just keep this thing.
You would like to stop sharing?
Yes. I would like to stop the sharing this.
Yeah.
Screen.
You're not able to do it?
No, ma'am.
I'll do this now from my side.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
It's okay, sir.
So I'm sharing the first question, and the question this is visible now.
Yes, sir. Yes, now it is visible, sir.
Yeah.
On
so the question which related to that up to CIRP period, whatever the data which is required for the filing the last returns. So although we already explained this, but your views on this.
That is already addressed, I guess. The data is not available. So the RP need to inform to the old director with regard to this liability. He is not supposed to file the final return. It is the management responsibility.
Because it is a prior to moratorium period.
Yes, it is falling due under my period, that CIRP period, but it is liability of the old management.
But even it is an old management now, in my opinion, Abhishek, this is not required, or although there is no compliance is required for this. So I think this already answered with that.
Yes, it is already
Which GST number should be successful debtor used for its business if compliance, if company required to IBC undergoing concern? Which GST number should be successful debtor used? I think the GST number, if it is, there are two options available under the IBC and the GST law, whether you want to continue the old GST number or the new. So if we taken the new registration number, the new will be continued.
They must be saying regarding that successful debtor, if understood. So the person who is acquiring, who is a successful bidder and who is acquiring the company under IBC by the order of NCLT, then as a going concern, he can continue the number which is otherwise used by the liquidator or that RP. He can use that number.
The GST number is on the company, not on the promoters or management. So the old number which is used for the ongoing business can be continued, in my opinion, unless he has taken or continued the old registration number.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So whether company can carry forward the input tax to the insolvent company. Again, there are two options available, Abhishek, I think. One, if he's continuing the old registration, he can continue.
Yes, we can carry forward.
Otherwise, there is a question mark and
There is a question mark. We can represent this. We can
Yeah.
take this matter before the courts also and seek their directions with regard to vested right. If court
Yeah,
allows, then it is a
issue is that now that the department may opt that there are huge liability also, but we don't know. So again, it's, if we are having the new registration number, then it is a question mark and it's a matter of litigation.
currently
any
the
op-
question number 3 is under litigation. There is no clarity. There is no circular. If you continue old registration, fine. But if you opt for new registration, it may invite unwarranted litigation.
Is there any option in GST portal whereby an IRP or the structures could be marked on company as a CIRP? No, there is no option as of now to mark it is under CIRP or to identify to supply for customer that is ongoing with the
But
CIRP.
this can be a good suggestion, sir. This can be a good suggestion. Okay, GST portal pe we can mark so that officer knows that this is the company, it needs a special treatment. So that old liability doesn't comes. They don't keep on issuing the notices because they actually don't know that the company is under liquidation, not from the portal. If portal shows this, then there can be a reduction in the litigation.
So this should be applicable for the closed GST number where it is closed due to CIRP process.
Yes.
There is a new
Close
registration.
GST number.
Right now there is no facility.
Right now there is no facility.
But the time limit for GST annual now it is up to September. Now it is extended to October of the following year. So
So
there
time
are
limit
10
of
months.
GST annual return is under GST law. There is no special time limit for this IBC companies. The same limit prevails. It is till 31st December unless department extend the time. The utility is already live now. One can start filing now, provided they have completed their income tax audit.
Correct. After CIRP, if no transactions are there in CD, GST returns to be filed or not. If you have taken the GST registration, you need to file. If you not taken the registration, you no requirement. So if there is a registration, I think the registration and that the compliance needs to be done.
Compliance need to be done, and if after CIRP, if companies ultimately will land into the liquidation or it will revive. If it is revived, then the incoming person will do the compliance and suitable undertaking can be taken.
Correct.
And if it is not revived, landed up to liquidation, then during liquidation phase, we will do the compliance, and after liquidation, we will file the surrender application.
In section 9, CIRP, if OC has not paid any expense amount to IRP, OC is not required to pay any expenses to IRP. It is a corporate data to be paid. IRP what to do for GST filing. So if there is no expenses reimbursement, he can apply to NCLT in my opinion. There is no way.
Here GST will have a less say. If expenses is not paid to the RP, then he may seek the suitable direction from the honorable NCLT and get the direction issued.
But it is from corporate data, not OC.
Corporate debtors. No, sir, generally COC pays the expenses now. So in case of COC, generally in case where the financial creditor is not there, only operational creditor is there, they have to reimburse to the RP or IRP the expenditure which he has incurred. If he don't pay, then he must be asking that what is the way forward. Then LCLT will issue the suitable direction.
It's all normal compliance applicable on the
Yes.
A company under CIRP whose GST is being cancelled due to non-filing GST, whether the IRP is required to be taken, is already answered, sir. But only
no, the second leg of question is only RCM liabilities scale it is required. Yes, you need to take fresh registration since old is cancelled, and since there is a compulsory reverse charge, he has to take new registration.
Although that is available for credit.
It is subject to output.
Yes. No, whether it is not, but it can continue. There should be some taxable supplies for that.
Yes, sir.
A company is under CIRP or GST is being cancelled due to non-filing of GST returns. There are two directors out of them. One is expert. How RP should take registration? RP will be as an authorized primary registration holder. RP is authorized signatory for this, in my opinion. Your views,
we already discussed this.
We already discussed this.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Now a company was under CIRP just before the inception of GST. Okay. The same registration was cancelled due to non-filing of GST returns. RP has not taken any GST registration till now. There is no clarity in built-in period. Our new registration payment would be made to advocate, which will trigger RCM liability. Whether the RP can now pay registration for discharge What to do if the officer does not allow registration and state that the registration is not within the permitted time and a notice is issued? What will be the date of effect of registration? What if there was any GST liability that might
I think there is a sets of questions they are asking.
Yeah. So the crux of the question is that if there is a delay in the applying the new registration when the already registration is cancelled, and there is a liability on account of RCM, and the registration has not been taken, so what is the consequence? So, in my opinion, the normal GST law is applicable, and
Normal GST law is applicable.
and
They can impose the penalty under section 125, and for delay in payment of RCM, they can ask for interest. Or in any case, you cannot deny the registration. It is a right.
The registration will be from the date of registration, but there is no option in the portal for the prior period unless it is specifically asked.
The requirement is to file the registration within 30 days.
Yes.
Under IBC and under the circular. If we delay beyond 30 days, then department can levy the penalty, impose the penalty under section 125. But in any case, they cannot deny the registration.
Is the compliance to be done by existing employee in charge of GST or only? Yes, RP being the CEO can continue the employees and
Sir, here the liabilities of the RP, sir. Liabilities of the RP, he can delegate to the employees, but he cannot delegate the responsibilities.
He need to ensure.
He need to disclose
that
the compliance to be done by existing employees. He can hand it over the compliance to them, but he has to monitor. Ultimate responsibility lies with the RP, IRP, or liquidator.
Right. If some returns are filed late, whether still new registration would be required. Returns are filed late. That cannot be reason for late. If there are pending returns, I think we already answered this.
They have said that if return is filed, but it is filed till date of CIRP. This will serve the purpose of our compliance in terms of notification 39. Then we can continue the old registration. Correct. Late filing is not an issue. It should be filed.
Correct.
Prior to the date of appointment.
The GST of CD is live prior to CIRP. RP was also doing all filing compliance under existing GST, but based on circular relating to GST compliance by RP has come 5520. RP obtained new GST, commence to do all compliance from the new GST in such manner. Okay. Now the new circular, which actually giving the clarification that he can continue with the old registration. In interim period, he has taken the new registration, and now if any credit is available in the new already old balance, how to do? Again, there is a question mark.
And then it is advisable to surrender the new registration, continue with the old registration. Since it is permitted from the backdated and credit is sitting in the old registration, or if there is a credit in the new registration, if there is a credit in the new registration, if there is a credit in the new registration,
but Abhishek, already the registration is continuing. The already all complaints are under that registration. So again, this goes to the third question which we discussed, that it is a question mark where the credit is available and in all the registration number
there is no carry forward mechanism.
Yeah, till now there is no clarification from board with this case. How to transfer balance in electronic credit ledger?
Same question. No mechanism as of now.
New GST taken. Correct. Electronic credit ledger, there is no, although there is a cash ledger balance, it can be refunded if he has deposited after he has taken the charge during the CIRP period. Whether ITC reversal would trigger for haircut amount. Whether ITC
we have answered this, but I want to throw a small light on this. I have discussed that the question is whether the department can trigger the liability again after haircut. We have discussed the Ghanshyam Mishra case. In Ghanshyam Mishra case, government has, the Supreme Court has settled lots of things. It is a long judgment running into 150 pages. So they said once claim is filed and considered, it is full and final. You cannot file the subsequent claim. You cannot agitate later for the same claim. It is number one. Number one, if you filed a less claim and then you are applying for the revision of claim in the later stage after plan is approved, even then it is also not allowed. It will be the court quoted missed. You have missed the bus. Now it is not allowed to come again. Now court also said that the IBC works on the principle of clean slate theory. So whosoever is buying this company, he should not land up in uncertain litigation and claims. Therefore, all the previous litigation stand closed either by way of claim or by, and it is clarified by the circular also. So at the max, the remedy with the earlier creditors, including departments, is filing the claim. If they comes or eligible under waterfall, it will be given, otherwise it is settled. And further, Supreme Court has also quoted one more thing, that you should not be allowed to act like a pooping the hydra. Now, hydra is an animal, sir, is a marine animal, which generally, keep quiet and keep remain silent, and whosoever comes near to him, he just attack. So this is the tendency of department also. Many times they keep silent during the claim, filing the claim, revising the claim, and then once everything is done, they comes like a hydra. The court says this is also not allowed. Therefore, this judgment can be referred in all the situations for the pre-CIRP regime. This will definitely help, and it is settled by Supreme Court. I will say for pre-CIRP, this is the settled jurisprudence in case of Ghanshyam Mishra case.
Right. There are again some set of questions. What if company is having multiple GST registration, whether RP is required to obtain multiple registration, whether the provisions of payment to creditors within 180 days to avail ITC is applicable for all short payments made to creditors as per resolution plan? Will management be required to reverse ITC related to short payment of, it's a good question actually, made to creditors. So again, which we clarified that if it's the old registration to be continue, then or if there is new registration, you just highlight from your side on this question.
Companies having multiple registration, then if old registrations are active, he can continue that. If it is inactive, non-compliance is there, he has to apply, he shall apply registration at all the location. However, the intention of department and assumption behind this can be that the operation of the company is still running on all the locations. If at all, let's assume the company is having registration at 25 locations and the company is under CIRP. Now the company has decided to operate with 10 locations only. The questions may be that in balance 15 location, whether I have to suppose to take registration, the notification says the RP shall apply registration at all the states. But I think there is a parallel assumptions going on, that it assumes that there will be a parallel supply in that registration. If there is no supply at that location, the concerned RP can write to the judicial officer, we have applied the registration here and we are not supposed to apply because there is no taxable supply, and accordingly he can escape the compliance of balance 15 registration, provided that there should not be a supply from that registration, including reverse charge.
Correct. Now, will management be required to reverse ITC related to short payment made to creditors? Yes. So whether it is past period or there is no credit availability on the past period, because the credit.
So in case of no funds, which question you are reading, sir? First question.
Whether the provision of payment to creditors within 180 days to be applicable for short payment? Yes, it will be applicable.
Payment to creditors is applicable during CIRP period ka creditors. Prior to CIRP, during CIRP it is a regular law. So if you have CIRP is started on 1st January and it is continuing till 1st September, and in between 6 months lapsed and you are not paid to the creditor, yes, you are liable to reverse.
But Abhishek, the question is related to the creditor for resolution plan. So the question, if we specify that, example, I need to pay OC 100 rupees and I am paying only 20 rupees.
No, that we have already cleared, sir. For the period pre-CIRP,
there is no credit available because the
during CIRP, yes, it is applicable.
Yes, yes.
During
whatever
CIRP,
past credit he has availed, whatever past credit is available, in account of that, if I am making them less payment to OC, because my credit availability is from the what they are telling now. If I am continuing the old registration, and because of the CIRP, against 100 rupees, I am making only 20 rupees payment.
Yes, sir.
Now, as per resolution plan, it is 20 only. Whether there will be reversal is required for balance 80 rupees.
The answer is no. Even though you are using the existing credit, which is availed out of the said supplier tax invoice and whom you are not making the payment. So the CIRP process and the IBC law, what they do is they have devised the mechanism in a way that all the liabilities will be settled through claim and assets will be there with the RP or CIRP. So here the credit is an asset. The credit is an asset. The ITC is an asset. He has to, if it is available, it was validly taken at that point of time. Now the event of non-payment to the supplier, that is on account of resolution plan, and resolution plan says it is settled. It is settled. What is agreed, it is paid. Once it is paid, it will not hit the section of section 16.4, section 16.2, that is 180 days wala section will not be invoked. If it is invoked, one can suitably argue before the authorities, and I think it is a good chance, good case. The department will not sustain in this.
Because the IBC will prevail, the provisions
Yes,
of
yes,
the
the IBC will prevail,
resolution,
sir.
the resolution plan is approved under IBC law, and the GST law for reverse will not be applicable.
Yes, yes, not applicable.
Supremacy-
All
supremacy
CIRP
by
creditors, pre-CIRP creditors, sir.
In case of no fund in the company, how to make payment of GST?
Manage the fund,
going
sir.
concern. You are the CEO, you need to manage as a going
Manage the
concern.
fund, sir. GST
So,
nothing to say. They say
you
once you
need
do the
to-
supply, you pay the tax.
Ultimately, you need to either go to FC or OC.
Yes, yes, yes.
So if there are FC, then they need to fund for this. There are
fund.
provision under IBC law to fund the.
But GST will not fund for GST, sir.
No, GST will not fund. I agree. Why I am not allowed to take ITC which shows in the previous registration before? Because you are not also taking the liability now. So you are not eligible. The expert
No,
law.
here I think previous registration CIRP, but why I am not
You
allowed
have
to take
option. If you have an option, if you have credit balance continue, then you can continue.
But then you have a first return, na? You have first return. If there is a previous CIRP ka registration ka invoice on which the previous registration is mentioned, although it is not visible in your 2A, that new registration ka 2A, you can very well take the credit in first registration because it has already relaxed that provision by way of circular and notification. To that extent, it is allowed. And what else credit? Previous CIRP credit. I think the credit sitting in the credit ledger.
No, with meaning, in my opinion, that he is continuing with the old registration, then he can continue enjoying the
If it continue, he can take. If he don't continue, then he cannot transfer, sir. He cannot transfer.
But if he's taken the new registration, then he cannot continue with the old invoices. Na? The services received after the registration or his appointment, only the credit can be taken for those.
No, usme there is a transitional period, the date of appointment and date of registration. We have discussed in the first slide during the course of CIRP. So they have appointed on 1st January.
Any supply of services received after his appointment is eligible to avail the credit.
Yes, after his appointment is eligible. Till registration, there is a mechanism of first return and subsequent he can very well take. But prior to his appointment, credit is not available.
In all GST registrations continue after CIRP process, then what is the liability on the new management if the old dues of the pre-CIRP dues, who is responsible? Zero.
If old registration continued after CIRP process, then what is the liability on
what is the liability on the new management for old
liability? Old registration is the liability of old directors because powers is suspended, duty is not suspended, and at the max they can inform to the old directors and GST department too.
Any liability, what they are telling that although you are continuing with the old registration number, but if any liability in account of any stopper's notice or any GST liability other than the normal cost which already disclosed, that is moratorium period or prior to moratorium period, that is zero. Or as per resolution plan, I would say.
It's covered by circular, sir. That is covered by circular.
Yeah. So the department cannot insist for any recovery of that.
No. There is a clear-cut circular which says Section 14 of IBC mandates the imposition of moratorium period, wherein the institution of suits or continuation of pending suits or pending against the corporate debtors is prohibited.
Yes, sir.
Further, they also says that no coercive action can be taken against the corporate debtor with respect to the dues for the prior period prior to insolvency. They can file the claim as operational debt.
Correct.
So it is clearly written in the circular 134.
Right. Next question, dear sir. As you told, GST is applicable on fixed assets under slump sale. If vendor is not charged GST under slump sale, what happened about the GST liability? Vendor is not required to charge. Sorry? Now you become the supplier, na? If it will come bound by supplier or recipient, the GST should pay by.
As you told that GST is applicable on fixed assets under slump sale. If vendor is not charged GST, under slum sale, what happened about the GST liability? It will be borne by the supplier recipient. No. Under fixed, there is a fixed assets is not under slum sale. First, we need to understand the exemption. Why they will not charge? Why liquidator will not charge? He might avail the exemption. And what is the exemption for? It is for going concern. So if he is selling fixed asset standalone, then it is not a going concern. Then he has to charge as tax as applicable. And if it is
During
assumed,
CIRP process also they can sell based on the approval. There is a part of CIRP, it is not required.
then it is not as going concern, no, sir.
No, even in the going concern, and
And if it is in going, then it cannot be standalone fixed asset, sir. It will be
correct.
assets
It's
and
part of
liabilities
supply.
together.
It's part of supply itself.
It can be the business at large, he can supply, but he
Correct,
cannot
correct.
sell fixed assets. He has written fixed assets only.
Yes.
So if it is a fixed assets, tax is applicable. There is no exemption. If it is a slum sale as going concern, then there is no liability. There is an exemption. And obviously, in both the cases, recipient is not liable to pay because this supply is not under reverse charge, completely reverse charge. Recipient in any case not liable to pay. It is
So
the
it's a-
liquidator who is liable to pay.
So it's a duty of supplier. This become here RP
It
or
is
the
forward
company.
charge. The tax
Yes,
is supplies under forward charge.
Correct.
The liquidator has to pay. He has to charge applicable tax.
Correct. If the company under CRP has fulfilled all GST compliance of the period before CRP, it need to take fresh registration from start. There is no option. No, we already replied to this. It is part of our.
There is no requirement. They say not liable to take, but it doesn't say that you cannot take. If at all company wishes to take a new registration, there is no bar on this. But they say you are
But
not
if you are
required to
taking-
take, not liable to take.
But if you are taking new registration, there will be question mark on the carry forward of the old balance.
That goes with that, sir. That goes with that.
We need to file final return of an old GST registration continue after CRP process. No, there is no final return required, only annual return.
No, there is a final return if CIRP process is closed and new person is not taking the charge of management and CIRP is ultimately landed to the liquidation and then surrender. Then yes, final return is required.
CIRP, not liquidation.
During
So if
CIRP, the incoming person shall continue the registration and final return is required in case of cancellation, sir. And
that's only
registration is continued, return is not required.
There is no final return. It is only annual return.
The only authorized person will change. The new person will take authority, and liquidator or RP need to take the suitable documents, requisite documents, evidencing that the return is taken over by the new company or new management.
I think we have done with the questions, and it's wonderful session from Abhishek side where we analyze all the things. So Rita madam, if anything more is from audience, we can ask, or otherwise hand it over to you, please.
Yeah, just two more questions have come, sir. We have 5-6 minutes time, if you think
Yes,
possible.
we can take with it.
Yeah, we have just now sent, sir.
Just a minute. Yes, I received it. Now the question is, the GST is suspended due to unavailability of person at place of business. The person is a consultant and he is occupied with the assignment at a different place. How to get GST registration revived? The person
I cannot
was
see that question. I cannot see that question.
Just a minute. I'll download it because I'm again sharing my screen. Now, it is visible.
Yes, sir. The GST is suspended due to
unavailability of person at a place of business. The person is consultant and he is occupied with the assignment at a different place. How to get GST registration revived? The person has also issued invoice under the said registration and paid GST, but while filing GST1, he came to know about suspension. What to do? How to resolve? It's a normal suspension, but whether it is a part of IBC? Why
it is a routine GST procedure.
It is routine GST process.
Nothing to do with the GST suspended due to unavailability of a person. What happens under GST is when you apply for registration, there is a visit from the department. If someone is not available, then department will file this place empty and they will not issue the registration. What is required is the place where you are obtaining the registration. There has to be some person. It has to be an office. so the department can visit and understand the business, and then he will issue the registration.
No, otherwise just request to revival for this online and ask
They
them
can
to
file the
otherwise
fresh application, sir. They can file the fresh application.
No, but if it is only suspended, so better to revise and reply.
Revocation can be filed, sir. Revocation, provided there is a time limit, they can file the. And if revocation is done, then he can file the appeal.
Correct. Is it a mandatory reply for further session in your no? It is already clarified. Do you have the option to continue with if there is no liability or that the compliance is already up to date? Correct.
Looking at the notification of March, first notification, it looks that it was mandatory. But after the subsequent notification, which is issued in May, they clarified that for the active registration, duly complied, not required. And for inactive, there is a requirement. Therefore, the conclusion is we have two options. One is see the old compliance. If it is okay, follow that. If it is not okay, take new registration.
Unless there is a liability on the old registration. Rita madam, handed over to you back, please.
Yes, sir. Thanks to both of you, sir, Abhishek ji and Mukesh ji. Abhishek ji for taking us in detail the presentation on the GST compliance for companies under CIRP as well as liquidation under IBC, and Mukesh ji for moderating the session, making it as much interactive as possible. And thanks to both of you for taking all the questions, all the queries as raised by members based on their practical difficulties which they might be facing. And Abhishek ji, you had covered the compliance aspects, for pre-CIRP, during CIRP, and for liquidation. So that would really help us to understand, the process, the compliance part in three different periods of the process which you had covered. And you also covered all the relevant notification and circulars, which are so very important related to GST compliance and CRP under IBC. On behalf of Committee on Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code of ICI, we thank both of you, Abhishek ji and Mukesh ji, for making presentation on such an important topic under IBC. Thanks indeed to both of you, sir.
It's our privilege, Rita ma'am, and we really thankful to you to provide an opportunity to interact with and to give or share our knowledge with, especially Abhishek, who done with so deeply and filter out the pearls from sea, frankly speaking. It's not so easy to find out the only relevant provisions which are applicable to the CIRP process. So again, thank you very much from our side, from both of our sides, and we are available for any clarifications for any offline and anything. So thank you very much.
In fact, I am expecting more questions, madam, from the participants, because indeed it is a confusing law, and there are a lot of practical difficulties. So that's why we have tried to take on all the questions. Still, some questions comes. You can share over the mail. We will try to answer it.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks to all the participants for joining this important webinar by the committee. Thanks to you.